As season 6 of The Handmaid's Tale draws to a close, I'm beginning to believe that Luke will die instead of Nick. One of the most widely held hypotheses is that Nick will perish while trying to save Hannah. Since June's escape from Gilead, protecting Hannah has been her top priority. And despite multiple seasons of efforts, she and Luke are still no closer to saving their daughter. As a result, I'm concerned that Luke's life may be lost in The Handmaid's Tale Season 6, when the characters will surely take some extreme actions. The first 4 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale Season 6 just set the stage for the final season of the Hulu series. 4 are currently available. Just 1 episode after escaping Gilead in the first 3 episodes, June, Moira, and Luke are already talking about returning. They are aware that since Gilead is causing a stir in the globe, they will need to take some significant action to save Hannah and overthrow the theocratic nation. Even though there is still hope, it appears that June and Luke's altercation may not turn out well. The likelihood of Nick saving Hannah from Gilead has decreased. Nick, June's guy on the inside, has been one of her greatest assets throughout The Handmaid's Tale. Nick has remained faithful to June throughout his career, which began as a driver and progressed to Iron Commander Blaine. In addition to helping June and others from Gilead, he is currently assisting June in rescuing Hannah from Gilead, but Nick gets closer to getting caught every season. As a result, many fans of The Handmaid's Tale have anticipated that Nick will pass away before the conclusion of the series, with his treasonous actions being exposed. It's to note that the 6th season of The Handmaid's Tale has cast doubt on this theory. The antagonists are largely isolated from June and Mayday's actions during the first 4 episodes, with the majority of the commanders focused on Commander Lawrence's new Bethlehem project. Nick might be safe at the end of The Handmaid's Tale unless things take a drastic turn. He appears to have no plans to save Hannah in the near future, which could spare his life. Luke wants to fight against and inside Gilead and is becoming more and more careless. Although Nick may seem safe, it is starting to look like The Handmaid's Tale. Season 6's big fatality could be Luke. Throughout seasons 5 and 6, Luke has gotten increasingly reckless in his attempts to get Hannah back. Luke has chosen that he wants to go on many of the missions, with him and Moira being the ones to venture into Gilead in the first 3 episodes. This is true even though Luke may not be as equipped to handle the difficulties of Gilead as June or Moira, because he is far less familiar with the world. Luke's willingness to put his family's needs ahead of his own is demonstrated by his response to the truck driver in Season 5, and his strategy for getting June on the train. Unfortunately, Luke might put himself in a position where he must decide between his life and Hannah's, which could ultimately lead to his death. Luke desires to be the one to attempt Hannah's rescue from Gilead. Luke's interactions in The Handmaid's Tale, Season 6, Episode 4 indicate that he is more committed than ever to the efforts to save Hannah. Previously, Luke was on the sidelines, with the US government and Mayday being on the front lines. However, Luke's tone appears to have changed following the plane rescue's failure in Season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale. In Episode 4, he states quite simply that we've got to try in an attempt to be the one to go inside Gilead and save Hannah. Luke acknowledges in the same episode that saving Hannah is an impossible dream. Does not imply that Luke will not make an effort. Rather, it indicates that Luke understands that his chances of failing are significantly greater than his chances of succeeding. It's possible that Luke will keep attempting to save Hannah until he passes away, which would be a terrible conclusion to The Handmaid's Tale. It makes sense for Luke to die in The Handmaid's Tale. Despite being heartbreaking, Luke's death makes sense in The Handmaid's Tale. June might pass away, but it wouldn't be the best choice for the program. After years of hardship, June's story would come to a disappointing conclusion because, even if she succeeded, she would never be content. But it also doesn't make sense to not murder anyone. At the conclusion of The Handmaid's Tale, it would be strange for June to get everything she desires because it would be unjust to the numerous Gilead victims who had lost everything. Rather, eliminating Luke achieves the ideal equilibrium. Luke is a main character in The Handmaid's Tale, and possibly the most significant person to June. Thus, his death would have an emotional impact on June and the audience, generating a truly tragic loss at the end of the piece. If Luke dies saving Hannah, he will at least have a sense of triumph before he dies. It will still be depressing, though, because he waited so long for June. Will Hannah be rescued from Gilead by Luke? Sadly, Luke is unlikely to be able to free Hannah from Gilead. Based on Margaret Atwood's 2019 follow-up novel, Hulu has already begun development of The Handmaid's Tale sequel called The Testaments. Hannah is still residing in Gilead when the novel is set, which is a number of years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale. The Testaments wouldn't work if Hannah left. Thus, she must stay there at the end of The Handmaid's Tale. Given that June is unlikely to get what she desires, this foreshadows The Handmaid's Tale's terrible conclusion. June would be particularly alone if Luke passed away, because she would have lost both her husband and her first child. The Handmaid's Tale has always been sad, but its ending might make things even worse.